The year was 3254, and humanity had touched the very heart of their solar system. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the UES Prometheus, watching the magnificent Helios array stretch across the void like a constellation of silver jewels. Millions of solar collection stations formed an intricate web around Sol, each one no larger than a city block, but collectively harvesting enough energy to power 1,000 worlds. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said Dr. Marcus Chun, the array's chief engineer, as he joined her at the reinforced viewport. His weathered face reflected the golden light streaming from the nearest collectors. 30 years of construction, and we finally harnessed a star. Elena nodded, though her expression remained troubled. As a military commander of the Helios Defense Force, she couldn't share in the pure wonder that filled the scientist's voice. Beautiful, yes, but also the most valuable target in human space. The Helios array represented the pinnacle of human achievement. Each collection station contained quantum crystalline matrices that could convert solar radiation directly into pure energy, which was then transmitted via focused neutrino beams to receiver stations throughout the solar system. The technology had revolutionized human civilization, allowing for the colonization of the outer planets and the construction of massive space habitats that housed billions. But Elena knew that humanity wasn't alone in appreciating the array's value. "Ma'am," came a crisp voice from behind them. Lieutenant Torres, Elena's aide, approached with a data tablet clutched in her hands. "Priority transmission from Earth Command. It's classified Alpha 1. Elena took the tablet, her fingers dancing across its surface to unlock the encrypted message. As she read, her face grew pale. Dr. Chin watched her with growing concern. "What is it?" he asked. "Long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet movement in the Kuiper Belt," Elena said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the news. "Orc vessels. Hundreds of them, possibly thousands. They're heading in system." The Orcs had been humanity's greatest adversary for over 2 centuries. Originally discovered on a distant world beyond the galactic rim, they had proven to be a spacefaring species with technology that, while different from humanity's, was equally advanced in its own brutal way. Their ships were living things, grown rather than built, with hulls of calcified bone and weapons that fired concentrated bursts of dark energy. More concerning than their technology was their culture. The Orcs were raiders and conquerors by nature, driven by an insatiable hunger for resources and territory. They had clashed with humanity numerous times over the centuries, each conflict more devastating than the last. The most recent war had ended in 3201 with the Treaty of Proxima, which had established clear boundaries between human and Orc space. But treaties meant little to a species that saw weakness as an invitation to attack. How long until they reached the inner system? Dr. Chin asked, his scientific curiosity warring with very human fear. Elena consulted the tablet again. At their current speed, approximately 48 hours. But they'll likely accelerate as they get closer. She turned to Lieutenant Torres. "Send a message to all station commanders. We're implementing Protocol Omega immediately." Protocol Omega was the Helios array's ultimate defensive measure. It would redirect the array's massive energy output from its peaceful purposes to military ones, turning the solar collectors into the most powerful weapons array ever constructed. The energy that normally powered human civilization would instead be focused into devastating particle beams capable of vaporizing entire fleets. But Elena knew it wouldn't be enough. The Orcs had been planning this assault for decades, and they wouldn't come unprepared. In the cold darkness beyond Neptune's orbit, the Orc fleet moved like a plague of locusts through the void. At its head sailed the Gork's Fury, a massive bioship that pulsed with malevolent life. Its hull was a patchwork of bone, metal, and living tissue, studded with weapon ports that glowed with inner fire. The ship's bridge was a cavern of twisted metal and organic growths, where the fleet's commander held court. War Boss Grimskull Ironteeth was a massive specimen even by Orc standards, standing nearly 3 meters tall and weighing as much as a small vehicle. His skin was a mottled green-black, crisscrossed with ritual scars that told the story of 1,000 battles. Cybernetic implants replaced his left eye and most of his right arm, while his massive tusks had been capped with sharpened metal. "How long? Till we reach the Humi stations," he growled, his voice like grinding stone. 36 hours, boss," replied Scarfang, his second in command. The smaller Orc's body was a mass of scars and crude augmentations, the result of countless battles in service to his war boss. The scouts report heavy defenses, but nothing we can't handle. Grimskull's remaining eye gleamed with anticipation. He had been planning this assault for decades, ever since the Orcs had first learned of the Helios Array's existence. The humans had built themselves the ultimate prize, a weapon that could power an empire or destroy one. All they had to do was take it. Tell the fleet to spread out, Grimskull ordered. We hit him from all sides. No escape, no mercy. He turned to face the tactical display that showed their approach vector. Dem Humies built themselves a nice little death trap. Too bad they ain't gonna be alive to enjoy it. The Orc fleet numbered in the thousands, ranging from massive capital ships like the Gork's Fury to smaller raiders and fighters. Each vessel was a unique creation, grown and modified according to its captain's preferences. Some were bristling with weapons, others specialized in boarding actions, and still others were designed for pure speed and maneuverability. But they all shared one thing in common. They were hungry for battle. "Boss," said Scarfang, "what about the Humi fleet? Scouts report they got ships moving to intercept." Grimskull's laugh was like the sound of breaking glass. "Lem come. We'll crush 'em like bugs." He activated the fleet-wide communication system, his voice booming across the entire armada. "Listen up, you gits. We're about to hit the biggest score in the galaxy. Dem Humies got themselves a star farm, and we're going to take it. First ship to reach the center gets double shares." The response was immediate and deafening. Thousands of Orc voices roared their approval, a sound that would chill the blood of any human who heard it. The fleet began to accelerate, their bio-ships pulsing with excitement as they prepared for the battle to come. The UES Prometheus had become the center of a frantic storm of activity. Elena stood in the ship's combat information center, surrounded by holographic displays, showing positions of every human vessel in the inner system. The news of the approaching Orc fleet had triggered the largest military mobilization in human history. "Admiral Chen's Third Fleet is moving to intercept from the Jupiter sector," reported Lieutenant Torres, her fingers flying across her control console. "ETA is 18 hours. What about the Mars Defense Force?" Elena asked. "Already deployed. They're forming a defensive perimeter around the inner array stations." Elena nodded, but she knew the mathematics were grim. The human fleet was outnumbered at least 3-1, and Orc ships were notoriously difficult to kill. Their bioholes could repair damage in real time, and their weapons were designed to cause maximum destruction rather than surgical strikes. "Ma'am," came a new voice. Captain Sarah Martinez, commander of the Array Security Forces, had just arrived in the CIC. "I've completed the evacuation protocols. All non-essential personnel have been transferred to the inner system. We're down to skeleton crews on the outer stations." "Good," Elena said. "What's the status of the defensive systems?" "All stations are armed and ready. The particle beam network is online and coordinated. We got overlapping fields of fire covering every approach vector." Martinez paused. "But if they get through the outer perimeter—" "They won't," Elena said firmly. "They can't. Too much depends on it." The Helios Array wasn't just humanity's greatest achievement. It was the foundation of their civilization. The energy it provided powered everything from the massive hydroponic farms that fed the outer colonies to the terraforming projects that were slowly making Mars and Venus habitable. If the Orcs captured or destroyed the array, billions would die. Dr. Chen appeared at Elena's shoulder, his face drawn with exhaustion. "The quantum matrices are showing stress fractures," he reported. "If we push them too hard, they could cascade failure." "How long can we maintain maximum output?" Elena asked. "Maybe 6 hours, possibly 8. After that, we'll have to cycle down or risk losing entire sections of the array." Elena's jaw tightened. 6 hours. In all likelihood, the battle would last much longer than that. "Do what you can, Doctor. We'll need every jewel." As if summoned by her words, the ship's communication system crackled to life. "All hands, this is Admiral Chun. Long-range sensors confirm Orc fleet composition. We're facing approximately 2,000 vessels of varying sizes. They'll reach the outer array perimeter in 34 hours. The bridge fell silent as the enormity of the situation sank in. 2,000 ships. It was the largest Orc fleet ever assembled, and it was heading straight for the heart of human space. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Torres said quietly, "incoming transmission from Earth. It's the Prime Minister." Elena straightened her uniform and activated the secure channel. Prime Minister Jackson's face appeared on the main screen, his expression grave but determined. "Commander Vasquez," he said, "I'm authorizing Operation Helios Dawn. You have full discretionary power to use any means necessary to defend the array." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Operation Helios Dawn was the most classified military protocol in human space. It gave her the authority to turn the array's full power against the approaching fleet, potentially destroying entire sectors of space in the process. "Sir," she said carefully, "are you certain? The collateral damage could be—" "I'm certain," Jackson interrupted. "The array cannot fall. Whatever the cost, it cannot fall." The transmission ended, leaving Elena staring at the blank screen. She had just been given the power to reshape the solar system itself. The question was whether she would have the courage to use it. The first shots of Battle of Sol were fired at 14:30 ship time, when the Orc advance scouts encountered the human picket line near the orbit of Uranus. The engagement was brief but vicious, with both sides testing each other's capabilities before the main battle began. Elena watched the tactical display from Prometheus's bridge, her hands clasped behind her back as she observed the distant flashes of weapons fire. The human ships were holding their own, but it was clear that the Orcs had improved their technology significantly since the last war. "The Valiant reports enemy weapons are penetrating their shields at a rate of 30%, reported Lieutenant Torres. "They're requesting permission to fall back." "Granted," Elena said. "All picket ships are to conduct a fighting withdrawal. We need to draw them deeper into the system." The plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution. The human fleet would conduct a series of strategic retreats, drawing the Orcs deeper into the solar system where the Helios array's weapons could be brought to bear. Each retreat would be costly, but it would allow the humans to inflict maximum damage on the approaching fleet. "Enemy fleet is accelerating," reported the sensor officer. "They're moving at 0.75 light speed. ETA to the array perimeter is now 28 hours. Elena nodded. The Orcs were eager for battle, which was both good and bad. Their aggression would make them predictable, but it would also make them dangerous. An Orc fleet in full assault mode was like a force of nature, unstoppable and destructive. "Ma'am," Captain Martinez said, "I'm receiving reports from the outer stations. They're detecting massive energy signatures from the Orc fleet. Whatever they're planning, it's big." Elena frowned. The Orcs were known for their straightforward tactics, but they weren't stupid. Grimskull had been planning this assault for decades, and he wouldn't have come without a few surprises. "Patch me through to Dr. Chun," she ordered. The scientist's face appeared on her personal display, his expression tense. "Commander, I'm reading the same energy signatures. They're unlike anything in our databases. Your assessment?" "If I had to guess, I'd say they've developed some kind of energy weapon. The power readings are off the charts." Elena felt a cold knot form in her stomach. The Orcs had always relied on brute force in overwhelming numbers, but if they had developed advanced energy weapons, it could change the entire balance of the battle. "Doctor, I need you to accelerate the array's charging sequence. We may need to fire sooner than planned." "Commander, I can't recommend that. The quantum matrices." "Doctor," Elena interrupted, "I need options, not problems. How long to full charge?" Chen's shoulder sagged. 6 hours, maybe 5 if we push it, but we'll be risking cascade failure." "Do it." As the transmission ended, Elena turned her attention back to the tactical display. The Orc fleet was now clearly visible as a massive red swarm moving through the outer system. Each ship was a point of malevolent light, racing toward the inner planets with deadly intent. She had commanded ships in battle before, but never anything like this. The fate of human civilization hung in the balance, and she was the only thing standing between the Orcs and their prize. "All ships," she broadcast on the fleet command frequency. This is Commander Vasquez. In 6 hours, we will face the greatest threat humanity has ever known. We cannot retreat, we cannot surrender, and we cannot fail. The lives of billions depend on our actions today. Make them count. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Thousands of human voices acknowledged her words. Their resolve clear even across the void of space. Whatever happened in the next few hours, they would face it together. Dr. Marcus Chun had spent his entire career studying the fundamental forces of the universe, but nothing had prepared him for the sight of the Helios array operating at full military power. The solar collectors had been rotated to face the approaching Orc fleet, their quantum matrices glowing with barely contained energy. Power levels are at 95%, reported as Assistant Dr. Sarah Kim. The matrices are holding, but I'm detecting microfractures in the quantum structure. Chin nodded grimly. They were pushing the array beyond its design limits, forcing it to channel more energy than it was meant to handle. The collectors were designed to harness solar radiation for peaceful purposes, not to serve as weapons of mass destruction. "What's our firing solution?" he asked. "The targeting computers have locked onto the Orc fleet's primary formation. We'll have a clear shot in 47 minutes. Chun activated his communication link to the Prometheus. "Commander Vasquez, this is Control. We're at maximum power, but I can't guarantee system stability. We'll get one shot, maybe two, before we have to cycle down." Elena's voice crackled through the comm system. "Understood, Doctor. Make it count." As Chun watched the energy readings climb toward critical levels, he couldn't help but think about the irony of the situation. The array had been built to bring light to the darkness, to power humanity's expansion into the cosmos. Now they were about to use it to bring darkness to their enemies. "Sir," Dr. Kim said quietly, "I'm detecting some kind of interference in the quantum field. It's not from our systems." Chun frowned as he studied the readings. There was definitely something wrong with the data, but he couldn't identify the source. The interference was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. "Could be jamming from the Orc fleet?" he asked. "I don't think so. The pattern is too regular, too precise. It's almost like—" She paused, her face pale. "Sir, I think someone else is manipulating the quantum field." Before Chun could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the control center. The main display showed a massive energy spike emanating from the Orc fleet, followed by a wave of distortion that rippled through space itself. "What the hell is that?" Chun demanded. "Unknown energy phenomenon," Kim replied, her fingers flying over her console. "It's interfering with our targeting systems. We're losing lock on the primary formation." Chun felt his blood turn to ice. The Orcs had developed some kind of quantum weapon, something that could disrupt the array systems from a distance. It was the one thing he had feared most. "Emergency protocols," he ordered. "Reroute all power to the primary matrices. We need to fire before they can disrupt us completely. Sir, the energy levels are already at critical. If we push any harder—" "Do it." As the array's power system screamed in protest, Chun watched the Orc fleet grow larger on the tactical display. They were still too far away for conventional weapons, but their quantum interference was already wreaking havoc on the array's targeting systems. "Targeting solution is degrading," Kim reported. "I can't maintain lock on the primary formation." "Then target the largest ship," Chun ordered, "the one at the center of the formation." He activated the communication system. "Commander Vasquez, we have a problem. The Orcs are using some kind of quantum weapon to disrupt our systems. We need to fire now or we'll lose the opportunity." Elena's voice was calm but urgent. "Do it, Doctor. Fire everything we have." Chen's hand hovered over the firing control. Once he pressed it, there would be no going back. The array would unleash enough energy to vaporize a small moon, and the quantum matrices would likely suffer catastrophic damage. But they had no choice. "All stations, prepare to fire," he announced. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." The universe seemed to hold its breath as the Helios array discharged its accumulated energy. A beam of pure destruction lanced out from the solar collectors, crossing the void at the speed of light. For a moment, it seemed as though the very fabric of space was burning. Then the beam struck the Orc fleet, and the darkness was filled with light. The Gork's fury bucked and screamed as a human energy beam tore through the Orc fleet. Grimskull felt the ship's pain to the neural link that connected him to its biosystems, a sensation like liquid fire running through his veins. "Damage report!" He bellowed over the sound of tortured metal and dying flesh. "Port flank is gone, boss." Scarfang replied, his voice tight with pain. "We lost a Bloodskull and a Teeth Ripper. That beam went right through M like they wasn't even there." Grimskull's eye blazed with fury. The humans had hurt him, hurt his fleet, and that was something he could not forgive. But he was also impressed. The weapon they had just used was more powerful than anything he had ever seen. "How many ships did we lose?" he demanded. "Couple hundred, maybe more. But boss, look at this." Scarfang pointed to the tactical display, where the human energy beam was clearly visible as a line of destruction through the fleet. "They can't fire that thing again right away. Look at the energy readings from their stations. They're cycling down." Grimskull's scarred face split in a vicious grin. The humans had played their best card, and while it had hurt, it hadn't been enough. His fleet was wounded but not broken, and now they were vulnerable. "All ships, maximum speed," he roared into the fleet communication system. "We're going to hit them while they're reloading. No mercy, no prisoners." The Orc fleet surged forward like a tide of destruction, their bio-ships pulsing with battle fury. The humans had drawn first blood, but the Orcs would have the last laugh. "Boss," Scarfang said, studying the tactical display, "the Humi fleet is moving to intercept. They're going to try to stop us before we reach the stations." "Let 'em try," Grimskull replied. "We've been waiting for this fight for decades. Time to show 'em what real warriors can do." The first human ships came into range 20 minutes later, their sleek hulls gleaming in the light of the distant sun. They were beautiful vessels, works of art as much as instruments of war, but Grimskull knew that beauty meant nothing in battle. "Target the lead ship," he ordered. "All forward weapons, full power." The Gork's fury shuddered as its bio-weapons discharged, sending streams of dark energy toward the approaching human fleet. The other Orc ships followed suit, filling the void with a storm of destruction. The human ships returned fire with their own weapons, particle beams and fusion missiles, creating a deadly light show in the darkness. But the Orcs had numbers on their side, and their bio-ships were designed to take punishment. Direct hit on the lead ship. Scarfang reported. "She's venting atmosphere." Grimskull watched as a human vessel, a graceful cruiser called the Endeavor, began to list to one side. Emergency lights flickered along its hull as damage control teams fought to save their ship. But the humans weren't giving up. Even as their ships took damage, they continued to fight with determination that Grimskull had to admire. They knew they were outnumbered, knew they were facing impossible odds, but they fought anyway. "They got spirit," he admitted to Scarfang. "Too bad we're going to crush them." The battle raged for hours, ships dying on both sides as the two fleets clashed in the void. The Orcs had the advantage in numbers, but the humans had superior technology and tactics. It was a brutal contest of attrition, with neither side willing to give ground. As the Gork's fury traded fire with human battleship, Grimskull felt a familiar rush of combat. This was what he lived for, what all Orcs lived for. The moment when everything else fell away and only the fight mattered. "Boss!" Scarfang's voice cut through his battle trance. "We're getting close to the inner system. The Humi stations are starting to power up again." Grimskull looked at the tactical display and saw that his second-in-command was right. The human solar collectors were slowly beginning to glow again, their quantum matrices rebuilding energy for another devastating attack. "How long until they can fire again?" he asked. "Maybe an hour, maybe less. But boss, look at this." Scarfang highlighted a section of the display. "Some of the stations are showing damage. That last shot hurt him, too." Grimskull's grin widened. The humans had wounded themselves with their own weapon, weakening their defenses just when they needed them most. It was the opportunity he had been waiting for. "Signal to fleet," he ordered. "We're going straight for the stations. Ignore the human ships. Ignore everything else. We take the prize, and the rest won't matter." The Orc fleet began to reform, concentrating their attack on the solar collectors themselves. It was a desperate gambit, but Grimskull knew it was their only chance. If they could capture or destroy the array, they would cripple humanity's ability to fight back. The question was whether they could reach it before the humans could fire again. Elena watched in horror as the Orc fleet broke through the human defensive line and headed straight for the array. Her ships had fought valiantly, but they were simply outnumbered. For every Orc vessel they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. All remaining ships, fall back to the array perimeter, she ordered. We make our stand here. The Prometheus and the surviving human vessels formed a defensive screen around the solar collectors, their weapons aimed at the approaching Orc fleet. It was a pitiful force compared to what they had started with, but it was all they had left. Ma'am, Lieutenant Torres reported, Dr. Chin says the array will be ready to fire in 43 minutes, but several of the outer stations are showing critical damage. Elena nodded grimly. The first shot had indeed hurt the array, causing several quantum matrices to fail and reducing their overall firepower. The next shot would be their last, and it might not be enough. What's the status of the evacuation? She asked. All non-essential personnel have been transferred to the inner system. We're down to skeleton crews on the stations. Good. Tell them to prepare for emergency shutdown. If the Orcs get through, we'll have to destroy the array ourselves. The words tasted like ashes in her mouth. The idea of destroying humanity's greatest achievement was almost unbearable, but she couldn't let it fall into Orc hands. The array in enemy control would be a weapon pointed at the heart of human civilization. Ma'am, Captain Martinez said, I'm detecting some kind of energy buildup in the Orc fleet. It's similar to what we saw before, but different somehow. Elena frowned as she studied the tactical display. The Orc ships were indeed generating massive amount of energy, but the pattern was unlike anything in their databases. Could be another jamming weapon? She asked. I don't think so. The energy signature is too focused, too directed. It's almost like they're charging up for a massive attack. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The Orcs had already demonstrated that they possessed advanced energy weapons. If they were preparing to use them against the array itself. Get me Dr. Chun, she ordered. The scientist's face appeared on her display, his expression haggard with exhaustion. Commander, the array is almost ready to fire. 37 minutes and counting. Doctor, we're detecting massive energy buildups in the Orc fleet. Could they be preparing to attack the array directly? Chen's face went pale. If they have energy weapons powerful enough to damage the collectors. Commander, the quantum matrices are already stressed. A direct attack could cause cascade failure throughout the entire system. Elena felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders like a lead blanket. The array was humanity's greatest weapon, but it was also incredibly fragile. One well-placed attack could destroy it completely. Doctor, I need you to prepare for emergency shutdown. If the Orcs get too close, we'll have to destroy the array ourselves. Commander, you can't be serious. The array represents decades of work, trillions of credits. Doctor, Elena interrupted, the array cannot fall into enemy hands. You know what they could do with that much power. Chin nodded reluctantly. I'll prepare the shutdown sequence. But Commander, once we start the process, there's no going back. The quantum matrices will be permanently damaged. Understood. Do it. As the transmission ended, Elena turned her attention back to the tactical display. The Orc fleet was now less than an hour away from the array, their ships growing larger with each passing moment. Her own forces were pitifully small in comparison, but she had to try. All ships, this is Commander Vasquez. We're about to face the enemy's main assault. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every human being in the solar system. Make every shot count. The response was immediate and heartening. Despite their losses, despite the impossible odds, the human fleet was ready to fight. Ma'am, Lieutenant Torres said quietly, incoming transmission from Earth. It's Prime Minister Jackson. Elena straightened her uniform and accepted the call. Jackson's face appeared on the screen, his expression grim but determined. Commander, I've been monitoring the situation. I want you to know that whatever happens, humanity will remember your sacrifice. Sir, we're not dead yet, Elena replied. We still have one shot left. I know, but Elena, I need you to understand something. The array cannot fall into enemy hands. If necessary, you have my authorization to use the Nova Protocol. Elena felt her blood turn to ice. The Nova Protocol was the most classified military secret in human space. It involved using the array to trigger a solar flare, essentially turning the sun itself into a weapon. The energy release would be enough to destroy the entire Orc fleet, but it would also devastate the inner solar system. Sir, she said carefully, the Nova Protocol would. I know what it would do, Jackson interrupted, but the alternative is Orc domination of human space. Then so be it. The decision is yours, Commander. But remember, sometimes the greatest victory requires the greatest sacrifice. The transmission ended, leaving Elena staring at the blank screen. She now had the power to destroy not just the Orc fleet, but potentially the entire inner solar system. It was a responsibility she had never wanted and a choice she prayed she would never have to make. But as she watched the Orc fleet draw closer, she began to wonder if she would have any choice at all.